I'm going to talk, and I'll try to keep it as short as I can, okay? I think I've told you this before, but on the off chance I haven't, I've signed up to take a lot of courses from this online course thing that's called udemy.com. You can see it, it's up on the screen here. They've got courses about all sorts of stuff. For instance, if I wanted to know about their courses they have for Swift, type in Swift there and notice how many they have. 12, 52, 76, 86, 92 courses. And 12 of those courses are free. So you could go out there right now, set up an account. It's free. They don't deluge you with emails, other than you'll get a lot of this kind of stuff like that's shown right here. And the good news is typically if you sign up for a free class, you'll start getting more emails and they'll have a lot more free classes. I'm probably signed up to take somewhere in the vicinity between 1 and 200 classes. And out of those 1 to 200 classes, I finished about 40 of them already. All right? And I will tell you that out of those 200 classes, I probably have paid for no more than a third of them. And so I've gotten 2/3 of them for free. And that's what you see when you start going through here. All right? So notice if I go to Swift and I go here to Swift and I go to free, there's what they'll show me. Introduction to Swift for non-programmers, etc. Well, that one probably won't help you much unless you know Spanish or whatever that language is. But look, the comprehensive guide to Swift, 72 lectures, 4 hours worth of video for free. How to make an app with no programming experience. And that's that Code with Chris guy. All right, so there's all sorts of different ones that are out here. All right, and the reason I'm showing you that is if I come out here and I search, I back up and I go to my courses, I've actually in here, and I don't know why I did this, but I did it, so I'm not going to, I can't tell you why. But if I go under my courses, you'll notice if I go down to the bottom, it says 1 of 32 of about 105 courses. But I've got two logins. I've got my Charter login and I've got my Blackhawk login. So that's why I've got about 100 on each one. All right. And the reason I'm telling you that is one of the courses that I've signed up for on here, I'm looking for it, it's in here, the Ultimate Web Development Course. All right. My daughter loves listening to this guy because he's English, you know, and I think that was her dream to have been born in England or to move to England or something. And what is in here at the beginning, it's just, you know, it's an there's an intro and he talks about some of the stuff that he goes through. The editor he likes to use is Komodo Edit, which you may or may not have heard of. You can get Komodo for free. All right, it's another editor. In some ways, it's much stronger than something like Notepad++, but not a whole heck of a lot. All right. Then he goes in and he talks a little bit about XAMPP. Well, you know all this stuff. Then he talks about bare bones HTML. All right. So what happens if you've got a site and you start creating that site, you have basically no CSS in it at all. Then he goes in and he talks about, well, what does it look like after you add the CSS? Then he brings PHP into the fray. All right, because he says you can't do everything on the client side. So he brings in and talks about PHP. Then he talks about MySQL along with PHP. You'll notice that as you look through here, there's a lot of green checks. That means I've already completed that lesson. All right, these are very different than taking a class with somebody like me where you'll have maybe 2 lectures and typically a short lecture for me is a half an hour. A short lecture for this guy is about 3 or 4 minutes. A long lecture for this guy is a half an hour. All right, I don't think he's got really any that are more than that. You'll notice if you look through here, 4, 4, 2, 4, 3. So he really breaks it down. All right. Then MySQL and PHP. All right, from static HTML to dynamic PHP. And you'll notice essential jQuery and Ajax. All right, that's about where I've stopped. And you can see some of the stuff I've gone through and some of it I haven't after that. But there's a total of about 140 lessons almost, maybe a little bit less than 137 or something like that. And not every one of those is a lesson. Sometimes what he does is he just provides working pieces of paper for you to use. Okay? Now, this is one of those classes, it's not free. In fact, this was one of those, what they oftentimes do here is they give you really good deals. How good of deals? I signed up for one yesterday. My wife gets mad because I'm to the point where I've signed up for 4 or 5 that I haven't asked Blackhawk to reimburse me for, so that I'm out about $100. All right, and if I just go and print all that stuff out, I can still ask for reimbursement. But I signed up for one yesterday. It's called How to Become a Kick-Ass Web Developer. All right, and make your own determinations as to whether or not I'm already kick-ass. But the point is that what they do in there, in a lot of that class, probably 2/3 of that class is on Dreamweaver. And I don't know Dreamweaver. I've done a little bit of work with it. I've taken a class in it, but that was a couple years ago. All right, and in the past, you can get Dreamweaver. You can get, we can get all sorts of educational discounts, and there's a limited version that you can get for free. All right, I don't know if having new people come in and having them learn to build websites using Dreamweaver is a good thing or a bad thing. You might all have your own thoughts, and that's okay. But the point is, what it does is it provides a lot of stuff. When you go and create a beginning tag, it'll create your end tag. It'll do a lot of work for you. All right, and that course, like I said, it's got probably 300 lectures in it, and I think about the first 180 are on Dreamweaver. All right, so I just started that literally last night. I'm going through some Bootstrap stuff because I'd like to learn Bootstrap, and this kick-ass web developer course was $500. All right, I got it for $15. And actually, it was $497, and I got it for $15. That's what they provide. Is they will offer their courses at 90 to 95 to sometimes 98% off. Yes. And they had about 3 or 4 more, but there weren't any other ones that I was interested in because it was all stuff like Microsoft Project and Office, etc. But they were all $500 for $15. This Bootstrap course that I'm taking was $199, and I got it for $5. So you can see what kind of deals you get with this stuff. And usually they send stuff out every week or every other week with all sorts of different deals and stuff they have. Okay? I mean, if you just think this is way too much, I don't want any of this garbage, you could tell them you can unsubscribe. All right? It's not a big thing. All right, but what I wanted to show you was it's both. It's both. I know Mike Wegman signed up he paid for one class, and it was how to do a course on YouTube or on Udemy, and it was like regularly $100. He got it for $9. All he had was a membership. He had not signed up for anything. Yeah, and well, when it's a membership, all you have to do is basically give him your login and set up a password. That's your membership. Okay. But what I wanted to show you, and I've got this out there on the system. He builds this thing in parts, and I've ripped off a lot of his stuff. All right, so the first part literally has got, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up all 3 of these. And for right now, at least, I'm going to comment out. In fact, I'm going to comment this out. So he starts with this literally about as generic or as vanilla or whatever way you want to look at it as you can start. What do I mean? Well, if I bring these 3 pages up now, here's the index page. Not real much to it. All right. Here's his admin page. Again, not a whole heck of a lot to it. And here's his what he calls the movie single page. Again, not a lot to it. He gives you these images in here also. All right. So he starts with that, and he says, well, the idea that he introduces talking about, or he comes in and talks about CSS resets and why you should do a reset. All right. And then after you do the reset, he literally gives you the code. And some of these courses, they're all different. Some of them give you all their code. Some of them give you almost none of their code. All right. So it just depends on the course. And normally, what happens too is if you go in and you start looking at the different courses that are in there, there'll be like a preview type of thing where you can watch anywhere from 1 to 5 lessons for free. All right, and you can see, for instance, I was going to take a class once. I actually could not understand the gentleman who was presenting. He was from another country. And he really, you could tell he knew his stuff, but I just couldn't understand it. So even though they offered it to me real cheap, I didn't want it because I couldn't understand it. All right. So what I'm hoping to do, and I've decided to give you all the, whoops, yeah, save all those, is I've given you all this code. So here's what happened. That's the index page. And he uses a YouTube kind of coloring types of thing in here. So notice, those are hyperlinks. Those are hyperlinks. And the idea is, eventually, when you click the Manage Users page, what that's going to do is it's going to bring up this one. All right, there's a little bit of color in here, but not a whole bunch. And you'll be able to go back and forth between managing your users and managing your movies in here. All right? And the other page that's in here then is this one. So the same kind of thing. All right, so I'm making some changes to it because there's things about it I like and things about it I'm not real nuts about. So again, if you remember when I had you fill out all of that information, what's going to happen is over here where it says Manage Users, all right, you're going to be able to, if you want to, when you click on that, it's going to have a list of everybody in the class. Okay? Now, the only thing you can change if you wanted to is, for instance, if I spelled Zach's name wrong. All right? He could come in here and Zach could come in and make a change to his name. All right? Something like that. All right? So you'll see the kind of stuff that we're going to be able to do. But eventually what we're doing is we're taking this, and this will have a list of those 25 movies that we went over in class. All right? This will be a list of each and every one of you. And so if I click right here, if I click on Teresa Deroni, it's going to have the 4 or 5 movies that she liked over here that were her favorites. All right, then we're going to use some sprites, and there'll be a garbage can here. So if she doesn't like that one, she'll be able to literally just drag it into the garbage. When she drags it into the garbage, it'll disappear from here, and it'll appear over here. So over here, what we're going to have are the list of all the movies out of those 25 that she did not pick as a favorite. Does that all make sense? And the way that this is broken up is what we have right now is just a simple bare bones HTML5 CSS3. What I'm working on next, and you'll have that either by Thursday or by after we get back from break, is I'm adding the MySQL to it. All right? And as we go on in it, the PHP that's in it is object-oriented PHP. So the idea is that this is a project that's allowing us to bring together everything that we've had over the 2 years. Plus, whether or not we go from users to movies, and we'll be able to flip back and forth real easily, we'll use jQuery for that. All right. So this will give us a chance to use many of the things that we've gone over in the last couple years. JavaScript, HTML, HTML5, CSS, CSS3, PHP, jQuery, MySQL, PHP MyAdmin, etc. Plus the whole thing, the whole PHP side is done in an object-oriented way. Does that make sense? All right. So again, the idea behind that is it's meant to be a project, but not one that you have to work on because you're already working on your own project. So I'm taking what he has provided, adding to it, subtracting from it, modifying it, etc. All right. And let's see. What he's done, I can't do this too much, just because of the fact, let's see if he's got somewhere in here. I think if I bring, let's see. So I'm bringing up the introduction. So.
Hello there.
Yeah,
I'm Richard Stibbard, webinaction.co.uk, and I'd like to welcome you most.
Right now, but I wanted to just
Would you like to know how to?
So this is what he's got in here.
Several ways of fire.
So if you look, there's your favorites list, and that's the garbage can that's made from a sprite. All right. He's already made up his own movies, so these are all just, they're not real movies, etc. All right. But I'm going through the stuff that he did, and I'm finding there's, at least at times, there's things in there that I like that he did, things that I didn't like, or I'd do them differently, so I'm starting to make some changes to them. All right. So as we move our way in here, Look, he just showed you that right there.
Feedback
so
again
look,
in the form of a little success icon, a tick.
So if you go and
clicking on a movie thumbnail or its title in the favorites list brings
right
up
here,
the single movie page.
The whole thing for the movie. So the idea
if the movie is already a favorite, you can click to remove it. If not, click to add it, and you'll see that the text changes appropriately for that link.
And again,
if we continue deleting favorites until there are none left, the title of the favorites list changes, the trash can disappears, and the welcome message at the top is...
A couple other things, and not like it's really that big a thing, but the stuff will fill in. Depending on the page you're on, it'll say hello and your name, but it'll all be basically set up for you like that.
One place and some place, PH, it on the exact top.
All right. The only other thing I wanted to show you was his database and what I'm doing. All right. Again, this is a guy who gave all of his code. Everything is in there. All right. So you'll notice OOP version, PDO connection. So these are all going to be PHP files. All right. And I'll just move over and I'll show you the stuff that I put in. So I changed around his database. Now I'm going to have to get back into the virtual desktop to show you this. So each one of you, and literally when I grabbed these, you were all numbered. I'll show you the numbers in just a second. But these were all the movies you liked. All right, for instance, I think I put myself in there number 1 because I had mine there first. Okay, so number 1, those were my favorites. Okay, and I also set it up so we had one person, there's number 13 that you don't see here because they have no favorites. So in other words, when they come up, their whole side, that whole left side should have nothing in it. Everything should be on the right. Then I made user 14 who likes all the movies. All right, and so his will have everything on the left-hand side and nothing on the right-hand side. So once we get to that point to show you how stuff works. And there's you guys, including me. All right, so there's all of us who were in the class, plus likes no movies and likes all movies. And again, likes all basically in that previous table, liked every one of those 25 movies. Likes no, liked none of the 25 movies. Just so you can see the difference between them when they come up. And then the last one that's in here is the movies tables. Now this is really ugly. Notice describe movies. All right. And you go, well, it's not that ugly. There's only 3 fields in it. But yeah, let me just select movie ID and title from movies. That's not too bad. Those are those 25 movies that I gave you. The problem is when you do a select star from movies, it gets to be a little uglier. Because what I did was I grabbed the description, it was on those 25 greatest movies of all times. I grabbed that. And I purposely set it up in a certain way. So notice if I say this, Yeah, I've got the description, but I also, I set this up so that if somebody wanted to do some work with this, they'd be able to break out. In other words, notice, director, stars. I put that all in the description, but you could break that up into different fields. All right, I didn't know how much time we'd have for this, but if somebody wanted to run with this, they'd be able to do so. All right. So again, ideally, when you come in here on Thursday, it'll be about no more than an hour. But I'll show you some of the stuff I've been doing as far as the database queries, and that's what I've been working on. All right. Then we'll break. Then after the break, I'll show you then the PHP stuff. All right, and I will show you the jQuery stuff, and you'll get all this. You'll get all this code. Now, what he provides, he meaning this Richard Stibbard, what he provides again, if I go back to the beginning and I say working files, ebook, bookmarks, well, one of the things that he provided was a 270-page book that goes through basically all of his lessons. But since it's not a free course, I can't share that with you. If it's a free one, you're able to share that stuff. But it's not, technically, it's not legal for me to do that. There's copyright issues and stuff like that, so I can't do that. All right. That's what I had. I just wanted to show you where I've been going. Again, not at all there yet. For this afternoon, just so you know, now I was surprised because many of you left on Thursday of last week, right before the Swift class, where I said on Thursday I was going to start the calculator thing, and many of you were not here for that. All right, so what I've done is I started, I taped that lecture. We had some problems with it. Those of you who were here probably remember that. We had some problems with it, but I went back and I've taped, it's going to be a 4-part, and I've got the first 3 parts taped. In addition, I've got 3 versions of the calculator. The first version that has nothing in it but the interface, the second version that's totally functional, and the third version that's totally functional, but I changed around the logic to include and use closures, and which really took the code and tightened it up. It turned it from about 30 lines of code to about 4 lines of code. All right, to show you why you might do something like that. All right, so all of that stuff is in there. We're going to be going through all of that stuff this afternoon then. All right, and the Android class will be a lab. Okay, questions? That's all that I had. Geez, if another group walks in here, I'm not going to be talking.